In recent months, a growing sense has been forming within the tech community that we are on the verge of one of the most unexpected turns in the history of the world's largest company, Apple. A company that for decades has been associated exclusively with personal devices, smartphones, laptops, watches, and the ecosystem around them, now appears to be gradually shifting its strategic direction. And while Apple once cautiously experimented with new categories, the growing number of leaks, insider reports, and indirect signals now point to something far more radical, an entry into an entirely new class of products that could define the future of the entire industry. More and more analysts, insiders, and supply chain sources are pointing to the same conclusion. Apple is actively investing in the development of a humanoid robot, and this no longer looks like an experiment or a research project. It looks like the beginning of a new era for the company itself. This raises the key question: why now? And is Apple entering this race too late? Because if you look at the market, it becomes clear that the biggest technology players have long since begun competing for leadership in robotics. Tesla, with its Optimus project, Amazon with its warehouse robots and home automation experiments, and Google with its investments in AI and robotics startups. All of them have already taken their first steps. Moreover, some are already demonstrating working prototypes capable of performing real tasks. Against this backdrop, Apple, known for not rushing and instead entering markets only when it can redefine the rules, finds itself in a very interesting position. On one hand, it has enormous resources, unmatched experience in building seamless user interfaces, and a unique ability to integrate technologies into a cohesive whole. On the other hand, it genuinely risks being late if the pace of robotics development exceeds expectations. However, if you look closely at Apple's strategy over recent years, it becomes clear that the company has been gradually preparing for this move. The cancellation of its long-rumored car project, which was once considered Apple's next big product, may not have been a failure, but rather a strategic pivot. Perhaps the company realized that the future is not in autonomous cars as such, but in autonomous systems capable of operating in any environment. And a humanoid robot could be exactly that kind of device. Imagine a product that combines everything Apple does best: refined design, deep ecosystem integration, intuitive interaction, powerful artificial intelligence, and most importantly, the ability to engage with humans on an entirely new level. This is not just a robot vacuum or a smart speaker. It is a full-fledged digital assistant in a physical body. According to reports, Apple's robot concept is fundamentally different from what competitors are building. While Tesla is focusing on a universal worker capable of handling industrial and logistics tasks, Apple, according to sources, is concentrating on home use. This would be a robot designed to become part of everyday life, something like the next generation of the iPhone, but in the physical world. It would help around the house, interact with the user, and possibly even serve as a companion. And here, Apple is not betting on raw strength or industrial efficiency, but on user experience, on emotion, on the feeling that this device truly lives alongside you. But this is where we reach the most difficult part. Because building the physical body of a robot is only half the challenge. The real problem is intelligence. And this is where Apple faces clear difficulties. Siri, despite years of development, still lags behind competitors in artificial intelligence. In an era where models like ChatGPT, Gemini, and others demonstrate levels of understanding and interaction that seemed like science fiction just a few years ago, Apple finds itself in the position of a follower. And if the company truly plans to create a humanoid robot, it will have to solve this problem, either by dramatically accelerating the development of its own AI or by partnering with other players. And that could become the most unexpected twist. Because imagine Apple integrating third-party technology into its product, something that contradicts its entire philosophy of controlling every aspect of its devices. Yet, in a new reality where the speed of technological progress is decisive, the company may have to rethink this approach. And if that happens, it will signal that even Apple is forced to adapt to new conditions. Nevertheless, if Apple succeeds in executing its project, it could transform the entire industry. Because Apple has always excelled at one thing: turning complex technologies into mass-market products. The iPhone was not the first smartphone, but it was the first one that millions truly wanted. And if Apple can do the same with robots, we may witness the moment when humanoid robots stop being something confined to laboratories and become part of everyday life. Now let us try to imagine what such a robot might look like. Judging by Apple's approach, it is unlikely to resemble a classic humanoid with a hyper-realistic appearance. Most likely, it will feature a minimalist, perhaps even slightly abstract design, with white and aluminum surfaces, smooth lines, and no unnecessary details, something instantly recognizable as an Apple product. Its movements will be as smooth as possible, almost organic, without sharp mechanical gestures. Its voice will be natural and calm, adaptable to the user. Its face or display may be dynamic, capable of expressing emotions. But the most important aspect is interaction. This robot must understand context, anticipate actions, and act not just as a tool, but as an assistant. It could control the home, cook, help with shopping, monitor health, remind about tasks, and communicate, essentially becoming the physical embodiment of the entire Apple ecosystem. But again, the question arises, will Apple be able to deliver this at the level users expect? Because the bar for the company is extremely high, and if the product is not perfect, it may fail to achieve the impact Apple is aiming for. On the other hand, if it succeeds, this could become the company's most important product in decades, possibly even more important than the iPhone. Because this is not just about a new device, but about a new category, a new form of interaction between humans and technology. And that is why everyone is watching this project right now. Investors, competitors, analysts. Because if Apple truly enters this race, it will change the rules of the game. And then the question will no longer be whether it was early or late, but whether it can once again do what it has done before, arrive later than everyone else and still become the leader. And perhaps we are witnessing the very beginning of that process. And if we look a bit further ahead, beyond the first versions of such a device, it becomes clear that this may not be just a product, but an entire platform around which a new ecosystem could form over time, similar to what happened with the iPhone and the App Store. Because imagine if developers gain access to the robot's body, its cameras, sensors, manipulators, and voice. This would open an entirely new level of applications, where software can not only display information, but physically interact with the real world, helping people with real tasks, from simple daily activities to complex scenarios in education, medicine, or even sports. And in that moment, the robot would stop being just a device made by Apple and become a new digital environment where the products of the future are created. And if the company truly follows this path, we may see the emergence of an entirely new market within a few years, where competition will no longer be about smartphones and laptops, but about intelligent assistants in the physical world. And in this race, the winner will not be the one who builds the first robot, but the one who makes it truly useful, intuitive, and desirable for millions of people. And this is where Apple, despite all the doubts and risks, still holds one of its strongest advantages: the ability to turn technology into something users cannot imagine living without. Imagine a company that just a few years ago was associated exclusively with electric vehicles, batteries, and factories for producing cars, but today is gradually beginning to turn into something much larger. We are talking about the company Tesla and its ambitious founder, Elon Musk. In recent years, a quiet but very important transformation has been taking place inside Tesla. The company is gradually ceasing to be just a car manufacturer and is beginning to turn into a technology corporation whose main product in the future may not be cars at all, but humanoid robots. Elon Musk has repeatedly said that in the long term, the most important product of Tesla is not cars, but a robot. That is why the company is actively investing billions of dollars in the development of its humanoid project, called Tesla Optimus. This robot is being created as a universal assistant for performing a wide variety of tasks, from working in factories to helping people in everyday life. And if you carefully follow what is happening inside Tesla, it becomes obvious that the company has already begun gradually restructuring its production capacities. Many Tesla factories are being designed in such a way that in the future they can mass-produce not only cars, but also robots. At first glance, this may sound like science fiction, but if we recall the history of Tesla, it becomes clear that the company has repeatedly done things that once seemed impossible. Elon Musk believes that the humanoid robot market in the future could be dozens of times larger than the automotive market. In his opinion, one day, robots will work in almost every sector of the economy. They will help people in manufacturing, logistics, construction, medicine, agriculture, and even in the homes of ordinary people. That is why Tesla is already focusing on the development of artificial intelligence and robotics. The robot Tesla Optimus is constantly being updated and improved. Almost every month, new demonstrations appear in which the robot becomes faster, more precise, and smarter. Its balance improves, movements become more natural, and artificial intelligence algorithms allow it to perform increasingly complex tasks. But now, according to insiders, the company is preparing for one of the most interesting steps in the development of this lineup. We are talking about the possible appearance of a new version of the robot Tesla Optimus, which may become a completely new direction within the project. According to some sources, Tesla may be preparing a female version of Tesla Optimus. This is not simply the same robot in another shell or with a changed design. According to rumors, it may involve a deeper modification of the device. Tesla engineers are allegedly working on a new configuration of the robot that will have different characteristics and may be optimized for other tasks. So far, there is very little precise information about such a robot. But interest in this topic is fueled by several statements from Elon Musk. In one interview, he hinted that Tesla is preparing a surprise in the field of robotics. Elon Musk has also previously said that the company is considering the possibility of creating different versions of humanoid robots for various usage scenarios. This means that in the future, the Optimus lineup may expand and include several types of robots. For example, more powerful industrial models for work in factories, more compact versions for home use, and specialized modifications for specific industries. If Tesla really is developing a new version of Tesla Optimus, this could mark the beginning of the expansion of the company's entire humanoid robot lineup. Insiders suggest that the female version of Tesla Optimus may differ with higher movement precision, improved hand motor skills, and a more advanced system of interaction with people. This may be especially important for tasks related to service, caregiving, work in hotels, stores, or medical institutions. Some experts believe that the design of the robot may also play an important role. A more friendly appearance may help people get used more quickly to interacting with humanoid machines. That is why many companies in the field of robotics are already experimenting with various forms and external characteristics of their robots. But Tesla is not the only company striving to take a leading position in this market. Today, competition in the field of humanoid robotics is becoming increasingly intense. Chinese companies in particular have become very active in this race. Chinese manufacturers literally present new robot models every month, demonstrate software updates, and show increasingly advanced capabilities of their machines. Many of these companies receive serious support from the state and actively invest in the development of artificial intelligence and robotics. As a result, the market is developing incredibly fast. And if Tesla wants to maintain leadership in this field, the company will really have to act as quickly as possible. Mass production of robots is an enormous technological challenge. It is necessary to create reliable mechanics, powerful batteries, efficient actuators, and most importantly, artificial intelligence that will be able to control this entire system. Tesla has one important advantage: enormous experience in the development of artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. The algorithms used for the autopilot of Tesla cars can become the basis for controlling robots. Huge computing power and neural network training systems allow the company to accelerate the development of its technologies. That is why many analysts believe that Tesla has every chance to become one of the leaders in the humanoid robot market. If the company really presents a new version of Tesla Optimus, this could become one of the most discussed events in the robotics industry. Perhaps this robot will be shown for the first time at one of the shareholder meetings of Tesla or at a special presentation. But knowing Elon Musk, another scenario cannot be excluded. Elon Musk is known for sometimes announcing projects long before their real appearance. Therefore, even if the information about a new version of Optimus turns out to be true, we may not see a finished robot immediately. Nevertheless, the very fact that Tesla is considering the possibility of expanding the lineup of humanoid robots speaks volumes. The company is clearly looking toward a future in which robots will become part of everyday human life. And if the plans of Elon Musk are realized in a few years, we may see a world where millions of humanoid machines work alongside people. Robots will help in factories, deliver goods, care for elderly people, work in service companies, and perform many other tasks. And perhaps it is the new versions of Optimus that will become the first step toward creating this new industry. Because if Tesla really begins mass-producing humanoid robots, this could become one of the biggest technological shifts of the 21st century. And at that moment, the company that once started as a manufacturer of electric vehicles will finally turn into a corporation creating machines of a new generation. Machines that will not simply drive on roads, but walk next to people and work together with them. And if information about such a version is really confirmed, this could open a completely new direction for the project. A robot created with an emphasis on more natural interaction with humans may prove especially in demand in fields where communication, precision of movement, and constant assistance to people are important. In this case, the female version of Optimus may become not just a new robot model, but a kind of symbol of the next stage in the development of the entire lineup. And it is quite possible that one day exactly such humanoid machines will greet people in hotels, help in hospitals, or work next to humans in everyday life, showing how far modern robotics has advanced. Today, something is happening that just a few years ago was spoken of only as a distant future. And while it once seemed that the humanoid robot race was exclusively a battle between Tesla and Chinese giants like Unitree, a new and extremely dangerous player is now entering the game. One that knows how to scale technologies better than anyone else in the world, one that has already transformed entire industries from smartphones to chips and consumer electronics, and that player is Samsung. According to insiders and industry analysts, Samsung is preparing to present its first universal humanoid robot as early as this year, and if this really happens, it could become a turning point for the entire industry, because Samsung is not just entering the robotics market, it intends to rewrite it. Unlike most companies today that create humanoids either for factories or for limited scenarios, Samsung is betting on a completely different concept. A universal robot. A robot that can work in the home, assist humans, interact with devices, learn, adapt, and become part of everyday life. And this is exactly what makes its approach so dangerous for competitors. If you look closely at how Samsung has entered other markets, it becomes clear that it almost never creates just a product. It builds an ecosystem, and in the case of humanoid robots, the situation will likely be the same. Imagine a device that does not just execute commands but is integrated with all the technology in your home, with the refrigerator, the TV, the smart home system, the smartphone, the car. A robot that understands your habits, manages your space, and effectively becomes the center of your digital life. And this is where things get really interesting, because Samsung is one of the few companies in the world that already has everything needed to implement such a concept. Its own processors, displays, batteries, sensors, and experience producing millions of devices every year, which means that if its robot proves successful, it will be able to scale it faster than anyone else. But what might this robot actually look like? If you combine all the leaks, patents, and current developments from Samsung, a very interesting picture emerges. It will not simply be a copy of a human like some competitors are pursuing. Most likely, Samsung will take the path of minimalism and functionality. A clean, concise design, possibly a smooth body without unnecessary details, a display instead of a face or minimalistic light indicators, with the emphasis not on human likeness, but on ease of interaction. Its height will likely be in the range of 140 to 170 centimeters, which is optimal for working in a home environment, allowing it to reach shelves and interact with household appliances without appearing intimidating. Its movements will be smooth, safe, and adapted to being around people, and most importantly, its intelligence. Samsung is actively investing in artificial intelligence, and its robot will most likely be built around so-called agent-based AI, meaning it will not just execute commands but understand tasks and make decisions. For example, you would not tell it bring me water. You would say I am hot, and it would understand on its own that it needs to bring a cold drink or turn on the air conditioning. And here, Samsung may make its strongest move: integration. Unlike Tesla Optimus, which is being built around autonomy and universality outside of an ecosystem, Samsung can connect its robot to all of its devices. So imagine the robot knowing that you are running out of groceries because the refrigerator has already sent a signal. It forms an order, suggests options, and interacts with delivery services on its own. This is no longer just a robot, it is a life management hub. But can Samsung challenge the current leaders? To understand this, you need to look at the market. Today, there are three main directions. The first is the United States with Tesla and its Optimus. The second is China, where companies like Unitree, UB and others are already actively bringing robots to market. And the third is the potential entry of Samsung. Tesla is betting on universality and scale, with the goal of creating a robot that is cheap and massively adopted, while China is betting on speed and manufacturing, with its robots already appearing in factories, logistics, and construction. But Samsung may play a completely different game. They could become the first to truly enter the home, and this is the key point, because the home robot market is potentially worth trillions of dollars, not tens of thousands of units like in factories, but hundreds of millions. And if Samsung manages to create a robot that is genuinely useful in everyday life, it could transform the entire industry. However, there are also risks, because creating a universal home robot is far more difficult than an industrial one. The home is a chaotic environment with different objects, different scenarios, and constant change, and a robot must be safe, reliable, and intelligent enough not to make mistakes, which raises the question of whether AI today is ready for that level. Nevertheless, Samsung appears to believe that it is, and if it actually presents its robot this year, it will send a signal to the entire industry that the race has entered a new level, that robots are no longer just about factories, but are becoming part of everyday life. And the most interesting part will come next, because if Samsung enters the market, other companies will not be able to stay on the sidelines. Apple is already, according to rumors, working on its own robotic devices. Google is actively investing in AI and robotics, and Chinese companies will accelerate even further. A real race will begin, a race to create the perfect humanoid assistant first, a race for a new market, a race that could change the life of every person. And if Samsung truly reveals what insiders are currently talking about, we may find ourselves at a point where the future becomes the present, not in 10 years, not in 5 years, but already now, because for the first time in history, several technological giants have simultaneously approached the creation of humanoid robots, and each of them wants to be first. But Samsung has one advantage. It knows how to turn technology into a mass product, and if it succeeds, this will not be just another robot, it will be the beginning of a new era. But there is another aspect that almost no one talks about, and it may become the decisive factor in this race. It is price. Historically, Samsung has always won where complex technology needed to be made mass market. Smartphones, televisions, home appliances. They did not just create a product, they reduced its cost to a level accessible to millions of people. And if Samsung applies this same strategy to humanoid robots, the market could explode. Imagine if their first robot costs not $30,000 to $40,000, as expected from competitors, but around $10,000 to $15,000, or even lower with mass production. This immediately changes the rules of the game, because the robot stops being an experiment or a luxury toy and becomes a household device, just like a TV or a washing machine. And this is exactly where Samsung can deliver its strongest blow to Tesla and Chinese manufacturers, because it already has global logistics, factories, suppliers, and sales channels, and it knows how to produce millions of devices per year, which means that if it can adapt this model to robots, no one will be able to compete with it at scale. But it is not just about price. There is another factor: trust. People are willing to place Samsung devices in their homes. They trust the brand. And this is critical because letting a humanoid robot into your home is an entirely different level of trust. It is a device that moves, interacts with objects, and exists nearby with you and your family. And if this market really begins to grow, the companies that win will be those that people already trust. The NVIDIA GTC 2026 conference became one of the most powerful technological events of the year, and, in essence, a direct demonstration of what the near future of humanity will look like. It took place from March 16th to 19th in San Jose and brought together more than 30,000 people offline and tens of thousands of online viewers from around the world. Hundreds of companies participated in the event, from the largest technology giants to startups that only recently emerged from laboratories but are already creating technologies capable of transforming the market. But what truly set GTC 2026 apart from previous years was the sharp focus on robotics. If it used to be primarily a conference about artificial intelligence and computing, it has now become clear that the next stage is the physical embodiment of AI, and that embodiment is robots. Dozens of different robots were showcased in exhibition and demo areas, from compact service devices to full-fledged humanoids. Some of them already move confidently, recognize speech, interact with people, and perform real tasks. For example, robots demonstrated the ability to carry objects, assist in logistics, serve visitors, and even engage in real-time dialogue. Particular attention was drawn to the new generation of humanoid robots. These machines no longer look like experimental prototypes. They are becoming increasingly functional, stable, and adaptive. Their movements are smoother, their reactions faster, and their intelligence deeper, thanks to the integration of advanced AI models running on NVIDIA GPUs. This is exactly where it becomes clear why such events matter. GTC is not just an exhibition, it is a convergence point for several technological trends at once: artificial intelligence, robotics, computer vision, and automation. And when all of this comes together, what emerges is not just a new product, but an entirely new industry. Companies are already openly stating that robots will begin to be massively deployed in the coming years, first in factories, warehouses, and construction sites, places where physical labor, high precision, and around-the-clock operation are required. But it does not stop there. Home assistants, service robots, personal assistants, all of this no longer seems like science fiction. Interestingly, many of the solutions presented at GTC 2026 are already at the stage of commercial deployment. This means that the transition from demonstration to real-world use is happening much faster than expected. What once took decades now takes years. And this is the key point. We are not just witnessing technological development, but an acceleration of that development. Robots are becoming cheaper, smarter, and more accessible, which means their adoption will grow exponentially. That is why GTC 2026 can be considered a turning point, the moment when it finally became clear that robots are no longer the future. They are already the present. And now the question is no longer whether they will appear in our lives, but how quickly they will change them. After everything that was shown at NVIDIA GTC 2026, it becomes obvious that NVIDIA no longer wants to remain just a supplier of technology for others. It is preparing to take the next step, and that step could reshape the balance of power in the robotics market. According to information circulating in the industry and among developers, NVIDIA is already actively working on creating its own next-generation humanoid robot. And this is not just another prototype, but a machine that is being designed from the ground up as the most universal platform in the world. If previously NVIDIA stayed in the background, providing computing power and AI infrastructure for other companies, the situation is now changing. The company has everything it needs to enter the market directly: the most powerful AI chips, advanced artificial intelligence models, its own simulation environments, and vast experience in training neural networks. All of this gives NVIDIA a foundation that almost none of its competitors possess. That is why insiders are increasingly saying that the project is already in the final stage of development. This means that the robot's core architecture has already been formed, key systems have been tested, and the current phase is refinement, optimization of movement, improvement of interaction with the environment, and training of models in real-world scenarios. NVIDIA's main focus is intelligence. Unlike many other companies that emphasize mechanics and appearance, NVIDIA is building its robot around AI. This means it is expected not just to execute commands, but to understand context, adapt, learn in real time, and make decisions in complex conditions. In essence, this is about creating a universal agent in the physical world, a robot that can work in factories, assist in logistics, perform tasks on construction sites, and eventually interact with people in everyday life. And this is where things become especially interesting, because if this project is successfully realized, NVIDIA could enter direct competition with players like Tesla Optimus and rapidly advancing Chinese manufacturers that are already actively deploying humanoids in industry. But unlike them, NVIDIA is not betting on mass production right now. It is betting on technological superiority. And if they succeed in creating a truly more intelligent robot, it could completely change the rules of the game. Imagine a machine that does not require rigidly predefined scenarios, that can understand a task the way a human does, that can arrive at a new workplace and adapt to new conditions within hours. This approach could become decisive. In addition, NVIDIA has another major advantage: its ecosystem. Its technologies are already used worldwide, from autonomous vehicles to industrial robots and data centers. This means a new robot could integrate into existing infrastructure almost instantly. In fact, it may not just be a robot, but part of a global system in which devices are interconnected through AI. And if current leaks are to be believed, the company may unveil its first fully functional prototype at the next GTC conference. This would not just be the presentation of a new device, but a clear bid for leadership in one of the most promising industries of the coming decades. Because the humanoid robot market is only just beginning to take shape, and whoever secures a dominant position now could control an entire industry in the future. And it is quite possible that right now we are witnessing the moment when NVIDIA is preparing to take exactly that step. But the most important thing is not even the robot itself, it is the consequences of its emergence. Because if NVIDIA actually releases a universal humanoid robot with this level of intelligence, it could trigger a chain reaction across the entire industry. Other companies simply will not be able to ignore such a move. This means a sharp acceleration of development, a surge in investment, and a true technological race. Tens of billions of dollars are already flowing into this market, but after the arrival of a major player like NVIDIA, that figure could multiply. In effect, we could see a situation similar to what happened in AI after the release of ChatGPT, when a single technology dramatically changed the rules of the game and forced all competitors to accelerate. And if this repeats in robotics, the world will change much faster than many expect. Because as soon as such robots become sufficiently reliable and affordable, companies will begin massively replacing humans in tasks where endurance, precision, and continuous operation matter most. And then comes the domino effect. First factories, then warehouses, then construction sites, and eventually the service sector. And at that point, the question will no longer be about technology, but about how humanity adapts to a new reality in which machines capable of learning, thinking, and acting almost like humans work alongside us. And perhaps right now, before our very eyes, this transition is already beginning. Imagine a device that can change not just an industry, but the very structure of the economy, society, and everyday human life. And we are not talking about smartphones, not about artificial intelligence in the cloud, and not even about electric vehicles. We are talking about the most ambitious project in Tesla's history. A project that, according to many analysts, could already become the company's main source of profit in the coming decades. And this project is the Tesla Optimus robot. Over the past year, we have witnessed incredible progress. from a concept that many perceived with skepticism to a real working prototype capable of performing physical tasks, moving, interacting with objects, and even learning. But according to the latest information, all of this was only the beginning. Because right now, according to insiders and sources within the industry, Tesla is preparing for one of the loudest announcements in its history. Elon Musk plans to present several updated versions of the Tesla Optimus robot at once, and if the leaks are to be believed, one of these versions could literally redefine what a humanoid robot should be. We are talking about a multi-armed version. Yes, you heard that right. A robot with 2, 4, or possibly even more arms. And at first glance, this may seem strange. Why would a robot need so many arms? But if you think about it, this is exactly where the key to its efficiency lies. Because the main value of a robot is not just intelligence, it is the ability to perform tasks faster and more efficiently than a human. Imagine a warehouse where a person can perform only one operation at a time. A robot with 4 arms can perform 4 simultaneously, sorting, packing, carrying, assembling, all at once. This is a multiple increase in productivity, and that is exactly why Tesla is betting on this architecture. But the main question arises, how do you control such a number of limbs? Because even for a human, coordinating 2 hands is a complex task that requires training. And here we are talking about 4 or more. And this is where next-generation artificial intelligence comes into play. According to sources, Tesla is actively integrating the latest AI systems into Optimus, including developments related to Grok from xAI. This means that control of the robot will not rely on rigid algorithms, but on a neural network model capable of learning, adapting, and making decisions in real time. And this is exactly what makes a multi-armed robot possible. Because instead of programming every movement, the system itself understands how to optimally use all its limbs. This is no longer just a robot, it is a physical embodiment of artificial intelligence. And if this technology truly works as insiders claim, we may witness a leap in robotics comparable to the emergence of smartphones. But this is only part of the story, because according to rumors, Tesla is preparing several versions of Optimus at once. Different configurations, different tasks, different use cases. And this makes sense, because the market Tesla is targeting is enormous. Manufacturing, logistics, construction, healthcare, service, home assistance, the list goes on indefinitely, and each of these sectors requires its own type of robot. But the multi-armed version could become the most universal solution, because it can adapt to different tasks without needing structural changes. Imagine a construction site. The robot can hold tools, perform multiple operations simultaneously, and assist other workers. Or, for example, a restaurant kitchen. The robot can cook several dishes at once, cut, mix, and serve. This is a level of efficiency that cannot be achieved with conventional systems. But an even more interesting scenario is the use of such robots in everyday life. Imagine a home of the future, a robot that can clean, cook, help with children, manage devices, and perform dozens of tasks in parallel. This is no longer just an assistant, it is a full-fledged human support system. And this is exactly where Tesla can create an entirely new market. Because if such robots become accessible, everything will change. Work, everyday life, the economy. People will be able to delegate physical labor. Companies will be able to automate processes. Productivity will increase many times over. But of course, all of this is still in the development stage. And it is important to understand that Tesla is known for frequently shifting timelines. Elon Musk has repeatedly made bold statements that were later adjusted. And there is a possibility that this time the presentation could also be postponed or changed. But even despite this, the very fact that the company is working on such technologies already says a lot, because it means that the future we have been talking about for decades is beginning to become reality. And if Tesla really unveils a multi-armed Optimus, it will be one of the most discussed technological announcements of recent years. Because this is not just a new product, it is a new stage in the evolution of technology, a stage in which machines become not just intelligent, but physically capable of replacing humans in most tasks. And the question is no longer whether this will happen. The question is how quickly it will happen. And it seems that the answer is faster than we think. But the most interesting part begins when you imagine how such robots will work as a team. Because one multi-armed robot is already a powerful tool. But dozens, hundreds, thousands of such robots connected into a single system is an entirely different level. Imagine a factory without traditional assembly lines in the classical sense. Instead, there is a flexible network of robots that can reconfigure themselves for any task in real time. Today, they assemble cars, tomorrow electronics, the day after an entirely new product, all without completely rebuilding production, because the robots themselves become universal. And this is where the concept of the multi-armed Tesla Optimus truly reveals itself. Multiple arms are not just an increase in power, they represent flexibility, the ability to perform complex combined tasks that previously required several people or multiple machines. One robot can hold an object, process it, check quality, and simultaneously pass it along, all without pauses, without switching, without losing time. And now add artificial intelligence that controls not just one robot, but an entire network. Each robot becomes part of a unified system that optimizes processes in real time. If a delay occurs somewhere, the system instantly redistributes tasks. If a new objective appears, the robots adapt to it. This is no longer just automation, it is a living, dynamic infrastructure. And here, Tesla can gain a massive advantage, because the company already has experience in creating such systems in its factories, in its vehicles, and in its AI solutions. And if this experience is transferred into robotics, we may see the emergence of the world's first truly scalable robotic ecosystem. But there is another factor that makes this story even more interesting. It is the speed of development. Because if in the past such technologies evolved over decades, now we are seeing acceleration many times over. What used to take 10 years is now happening in 2 to 3 years. And this means that the transition from prototypes to mass adoption could happen much faster than most people expect. And if the upcoming presentation really confirms all these rumors, we may find ourselves at a point where the future stops being a hypothesis and becomes a plan that has already begun to be implemented. And then the question will no longer be, is it possible, but are we ready for it? And here is another direction that is now literally changing the perception of robots. It is not strength, not speed, and not even intelligence, but the face. The company Aheadform has introduced the Origin F1, and this is perhaps one of the most realistic humanoid robots we have seen in recent times. But the main focus here is not on the body, but on interaction. This is a robot designed for face-to-face communication. Unlike classical machines, Origin F1 focuses on facial expressions, gaze, and micro-emotions. Its face is capable of conveying subtle changes in expression, from slight interest to full emotional reactions. And this is not just animation. Everything is controlled by AI in real time, depending on the dialogue with a human. In effect, this is an attempt to solve one of the most difficult problems in robotics, the uncanny valley effect, when a robot looks almost human but something still feels unnatural. And Origin F1 comes very close to the point where that boundary begins to disappear. But the most interesting aspect is the concept of personality switching. The same robot can literally become different characters, with changes in appearance, voice, behavior, and communication style, so that today it can be a calm assistant, tomorrow an energetic conversational partner, or even a fully customized digital persona. This means that what we are seeing is not just a robot, but a platform, a physical body for artificial intelligence that can be adapted for any task, from customer service to personal companionship. And if previously AI existed only in phones and smart speakers, now it is gaining a face, a gaze, and a physical presence. And it is precisely technologies like these that may become the next stage of evolution, when interacting with a machine becomes indistinguishable from interacting with a human. Increasing attention is being drawn to a new class of incredibly realistic humanoid robots. And one of the most talked about projects right now is the Emily robot from Unveils. This is not just a humanoid, but a full-fledged AI companion designed for communication, interaction, and personalization for a specific user. Emily looks as close to a human as possible, with realistic skin, facial expressions, voice, and even behavior that adapts during interaction. Inside, it features integration with advanced language models, allowing the robot to maintain conversations, remember user preferences, and develop an individual communication style. The main feature is deep customization, as the user can configure appearance, voice, personality, and even behavioral scenarios. In essence, this is the first step toward creating a fully personalized digital companion that exists not only in a phone, but physically near you in the real world. Emily is also connected to the internet and constantly updated, learning new interaction scenarios, which means that over time, such a robot becomes increasingly lifelike and adaptive. And although such technologies still spark debate, one thing is clear: the industry is moving toward a point where the boundary between humans and machines becomes increasingly blurred, and robots like Emily are no longer the future, but the beginning of a new reality. Xiaomi has made a powerful new move in the humanoid robot race by introducing an updated version of its Cyber One, and it is now becoming a truly formidable competitor in the market. This robot, standing about 177 centimeters tall and weighing 52 kilograms, can already walk like a human, recognize emotions, and interact with the environment almost in real time. The main upgrade, however, is its new bionic hand, which is now as close to a human one as possible. Xiaomi has reduced its size by 60%, bringing it into precise alignment with a human hand, and increased the number of degrees of freedom to a level that allows it to replicate real finger movements with high accuracy. Moreover, this hand is equipped with sensors across the entire surface of the palm, enabling the robot to literally feel objects, as well as a cooling system that mimics human sweating, solving the problem of overheating during prolonged operation. Cyber One is already being tested on real tasks, from assembling components in factories to delicate object handling, and is demonstrating a high level of precision. At the same time, it can recognize up to 45 human emotions and respond to them, making it not just a machine, but a fully interactive assistant. A new serious player has also appeared in the humanoid robot market, the startup Sunday Robotics, which is developing a home robot called Memo. And this is no longer just a concept, but a real candidate for life in every home. This robot is specifically designed for household tasks. It can clear the table, load the dishwasher, do laundry, and even make coffee, operating in a regular kitchen rather than a sterile laboratory. Unlike classical humanoids, Memo moves on a wheeled platform, making it much more stable and safe, especially in home environments. It can adjust its height, reach different surfaces, and carefully handle fragile objects such as glassware. And if everything goes according to plan, in the coming years, such devices may begin to appear in homes on a mass scale, gradually taking over routine tasks and freeing up the most valuable resource for people: time. A new stage of robotization has begun in China, as the company Unveils AI has officially launched its home robots into real apartments, and this is no longer testing but full-fledged operation in everyday life. The robot is a compact mobile platform with manipulators capable of performing a wide range of tasks, from cleaning and sorting items to preparing food, and all of this happens not in a laboratory, but in ordinary homes with real clutter, dishes, and daily routines. The key feature is adaptation to a real environment. The robot can navigate apartment spaces, interact with household appliances, open cabinets, use kitchen tools, and even prepare ingredients for cooking. All of this works thanks to a combination of computer vision, artificial intelligence, and training on real-world scenarios. And while home robots were once just assistants like vacuum cleaners, we are now seeing the beginning of a new era, where full-fledged robots begin to take over everyday human life. An unexpected breakthrough has also occurred in the humanoid robotics industry, as the company WI Robotics introduced a robot named Alex, and its main feature sounds simple, but is in fact one of the most difficult challenges in robotics: perfect handshaking. At first glance, this may seem trivial, but controlling force and precision of movement remains one of the key problems of modern robots, and Alex solves it using an advanced system of sensors and algorithms that regulate pressure, speed, and hand position in real time. Its hand is capable of performing complex movements, including thumb opposition like a human, providing a high level of dexterity and control. The robot does not just grab a hand, it adapts to the person, making the handshake as natural and safe as possible. Alex demonstrates that we are already on the verge of a stage where robots are not just executing commands but beginning to sense and interact with humans on a new level. And it is precisely such details as a simple handshake that become the key to the full integration of robots into our lives.